Hey guys, Creig Kimbro here. Many of you know me as an avid fisherman, and from time to time I really like to keep a few crappie that I catch. If you're from East Tennessee, we call it crappie. And also too, some of you probably know me as maybe somewhat of a person that specializes and likes to visit with landowners and farmers about pond management. And so today I want to share with you, we're oftentimes so many times we preach to our pond owners that you need to be harvesting out of those ponds. And so today I want to show you how to fillet some of those fish that you get out of your ponds, and or if you're an avid fisherman like me and like to catch and eat fish as we do from time to time in my house, I'd like to share with you how to fillet some crappie. I've got some crappie here today, and obviously that's not something we really particularly want you to put in or stock in your ponds, but if you do have them in there, I would suggest to you to be getting those out, and we can talk about that in another session. Today I want to share with you how to fillet some crappie. First of all, you definitely need to have a good sharp fillet knife, and you can buy these at any sporting goods place or Walmart. This one happens to be, I think, a Rapala brand that I've had a long time. It's actually only about a 4-inch or a 5-inch blade. I suggest getting maybe a 6 to an 8-inch blade, depending on what size the fish are that you're filleting. Obviously, we're working with panfish here. Also, too, I like to use an electric fillet knife, so I'm going to show you how to use both in this session. The other thing, too, you would probably need to get or go ahead and prepare ahead of time is get you some plastic Ziploc bags. I like to keep mine in frozen Ziploc bags or frozen water if I'm not going to eat them fresh. I mark on there the date in which I've caught them, the number of fillets I'm putting in the bag, and I just like to put on there what lake it was that I caught those fish out of. I use a colander like that you would for vegetables, like some sort of colander that's got some holes in it. That's just what I like to use to put my fillets in, and then I wash them up good in there. I happen to have a sink here that I put in my shop when I put my shop together, and it's worked out real handy to fillet fish. I also use a really nice fillet board, or just a cutting board, that I picked up at a restaurant supply store, and it works out really, really well to fillet fish on. So at this time, we're just going to get started. I'm going to start us off actually with just a regular fillet knife. That's what we'll start off with, and I'm going to just show you my fish that I have already ready to go. I've had those on ice, and I like to do that actually. I like to put those fish on ice because I just feel like that they're a whole lot easier to manage that way. If you're going to fillet them up like the day you caught them, it's okay to do that, but they're going to be a little harder to manage. They're going to want to get to moving on you, and so these I've already got on ice, and that's the best way. They're going to be stiff and a whole lot easier to work with. We're going to start off with a smaller crappie that I had here. I'm going to share with you this. I've got a smaller knife, so I want to use it on this one. I'm going to try to show you what I do to start off with. I basically go right behind the gill plate on that fish, and I'll show you up closer. I go behind this gill plate is where I start my cut right behind that gill plate, or this pec fin right here. I go right behind those two things, and then I go right down the backbone of that fish to start my fillet off. So I'm going to go ahead and start this one off. You just want to go until you feel that center bone there. It'll go right down the center of that fish, right in the middle. And then you just want to kind of keep cutting down that. You'll feel that bone, that center bone, that vertebrae bone. You just keep on going down, all the way down to the tail there. And then you want to make sure you cut around that stomach muscle, which is going to be right, it's kind of his rib cage in the fish. It'll be the rib cage there. You need to try to cut around that because you do not want to eat bones. You don't want to eat those bones. So I'm cutting around that stomach muscle, and I'll show you that. There's cutting around that stomach muscle. This was actually a female, got some eggs there, which they're going to have this time of the year. And now we're going to go ahead and take, so we've cut around that stomach muscle. This is what the fillet is going to look like. Now I got to take the skin off, or basically just take the skin or the the scales. Take those completely off from the skin. Take the meat off the skin. And again, it helps to have a real sharp knife for this, for sure. And if you got a good knife, you can just pretty much, and again, with them being frozen, or at least off fresh ice, pretty much just take that fillet right out of there, no problem. There's your fillet. And again, I put that in a colander, and I've got a sink right here, and I use that sink. That's one way that you can cut that fillet out. I'm going to show you another one very quickly. You can just take your knife and actually go make that same cut right behind that fin. I'm going to show you the cut. There's that cut right behind the gill plate and that pec fin. And then you can actually just go right straight down. You can cut through all of those bones if you want to. If you got a good sharp knife, just go right through all those bones, and again, stay right down that center vertebrae, that backbone I call it, but it's really a vertebrae. It goes through the center of that fish. And there's your fillet. Now, in this situation, you have cut through those rib bones with this knife, so you're going to have to go back and cut that out. You got to take your knife and cut those rib bones out at this point to finish off the fillet to make sure that it is boneless. So at this point, there's my fillet, and I've got that rib bone still in there. That needs to come out. I'm going to show you how to do that. Just take your knife and kind of work your way down the edge of that bone. You'll feel that bone with your knife. Just kind of cut, you're just cutting that bone out with your fillet knife. It's a very simple process. You're just taking your knife and cutting that bone out just like that. And there's your fillet. And I cut that bone right out. Now, what I always do is I keep myself a bucket full of just a little bit of water, and that's where I put my intervals. And I just drop those in a bucket of water, and then you can dispose of them like out somewhere in your landfill, or you can take those and put them in, like if you got a hole you can bury them in. That's a great thing. Or you can compost them for your garden. That works out really, really well. Now, I've got a nice crappie here that I wanted to show you. This is a real nice one. I'm going to show you how to do it with an electric fillet knife, and we'll go from there. So basically the same process, but with an electric fillet knife. At this time, we'll try this one. Now, it speeds up the process, in my opinion. It's always good to go ahead and have you just a regular fillet knife handy, but this is a whole lot quicker. Watch how fast. Again, same process. There's some of the eggs. That's a female. Same exact process. You just take your fillet knife and you cut it. You cut that skin, or basically what holds the scales, cut that off. And there's your fillet. And it puts out a really nice fillet, I think, with an electric knife. It's a more even cut. I'll flip him over. We'll do the same thing. Again, you're feeling for that backbone, that vertebrae, right down the center there. Just feeling for it with that knife. Flip it over. And I like to go ahead and, I'll just go ahead and cut the stomach bones out, or the rib cage. I'll go ahead and cut that out right now. I'll show you how to do that. Just take your knife, just go down under it there till you catch all those bones. Again, you're just kind of filleting those bones right out. That's the stomach bone. You take that right out, and you've got pretty much a boneless fillet. Sometimes the electric knife will leave some bones, and I'll show you where that'll be. Take that skin off. Sometimes there'll be some bones in that fillet about right through here, so you'd want to take your knife and cut that out. But that's your fillet, a crappie fillet, and boy, that is some really good eating. Again, I want to show you taking this stomach bone out. You can see it right here at my thumb. That's the stomach bone. I'm going to take that out. Rib cage, really, that's what it is. Take that out with my knife. There's that stomach or rib cage. That's a discard. And this is your fillet. And at this point, then, I can just go ahead and clean my fillets up. Put them in my bag here. And I always like to just I fill my bag up with some water where my fillets are. I fill it up partial of the way with water and freeze. If I'm going to put them in the freezer, I freeze them in that sack of water. It basically freezes them in ice is what you're doing. And basically you can keep them for 6 to 8 months that way and have fresh fish all year round. Hope this helps you if you ever wish to fillet some fish, especially if you're managing your pond. And we talked to you so much about the fact that it is so important to make sure that you harvest the fish out of your pond in order to keep that pond a balanced system. So be thinking about how you yourself can be a manager for your ponds, or if you enjoy, like me, going fishing sometime and you want to keep a few sometime, this is your opportunity to do so. Hope you've learned something with this filleting fish demonstration. Y'all have a good day. Happy fishing.